The morning had started with a storm, one of those cold, punishing rains that felt like the sky itself was angry. The streets were slick, the clouds pressed low, and people rushed past each other with umbrellas tilted like shields against a world that wasn't gentle. And in the middle of it all was a single mother named Alina, running through the rain with her shoes soaked, her breath uneven, and her small daughter's lunchbox tucked under her arm like a precious treasure she could not afford to lose. She kept glancing at the time, her heart pounding harder with every minute that passed. She knew she couldn't be late again. She knew this job was all she had. But fate had a strange way of testing people on the days they were already breaking. Because just as she reached the corner of Westbridge Street, she saw the man in the wheelchair tip sideways as one wheel got stuck in a crack on the pavement. And in that split second, between saving herself or helping a stranger, she didn't hesitate. She ran toward him, unaware that this moment would destroy her life before rebuilding it in ways she could never imagine. If you believe kindness should be rewarded, not punished, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. It helps more people see stories that still believe in second chances. As she reached the fallen man, breathless and trembling from the cold, she noticed he was shivering and struggling to pull himself upright. He had no umbrella, no bag, no companion, just a simple gray sweater drenched in rain and glasses fogged by the storm. Alina lifted the wheelchair upright with all her strength, her arms straining but her heart steady with compassion. She spoke softly, trying not to frighten him, and brushed the rain from his shoulders as if she were comforting her own child. She didn't know who he was. She didn't know why he was alone. She only knew that she couldn't walk past someone suffering, no matter the cost, and the cost came swiftly, because by the time she helped him cross the street, adjusted the crooked wheel, ensured he was safe, and sprinted the final block toward the cafe where she worked, the door was already being locked from the inside. Her manager, stern and exhausted from excuses she had grown tired of hearing, shook her head slowly. The disappointment on her face was worse than anger, and even before the words came, Alina knew she was fired. The rain felt colder after that. The world looked sharper. The humiliation stung like a physical wound. She tried to explain, her voice cracking, her hands trembling, but the manager did not open the door. For her employer, rules were rules, and late was late, no matter the reason. Alina walked away, jobless, defeated, and unable to hold back her tears. The lunchbox in her hand felt heavy, as if filled with all the worries she'd been trying to outrun. She knew her daughter, Noor, would ask innocent questions. She knew bills were already piling up. She knew she had no savings and no support. She was alone, soaked, hungry, and terrified of what tomorrow might demand. Still, she walked home with steady steps. Because mothers don't have the luxury of stopping when they're tired, they move because the world won't wait for them to rest. That night, after feeding Noor and tucking her into their tiny apartment's only bed, Alina sat on the floor by the window, staring out at the endless city lights. These lights belonged to people with warm homes, stable jobs, and steady lives, things she had never truly known. She pressed her forehead against the cold glass and whispered promises to herself that she wasn't even sure she could keep. She would look for another job in the morning. She would find a way to stretch the little money she had left. She would protect her child no matter what. She would not give up. But the next morning did not bring hope. It brought rejection after rejection. Every cafe, every store, every small business had the same look of apologetic dismissal. When she asked if they were hiring, they wanted experience, availability, references she no longer had, stability she couldn't promise. And by noon, her legs ached from walking, and her spirit was so thin it nearly crumbled. That was when she saw him again. The man from the wheelchair. He was sitting outside a large office building, tall glass windows reflecting the sky, a place far too fancy for her to even step into. She recognized him immediately, though now he looked different. He was dry, neatly dressed, and accompanied by a man in a suit standing slightly behind him. When his eyes met hers, there was a flicker of recognition, followed by something that surprised her: concern. He gestured for her to come closer, and though uncertainty tightened her chest, she walked toward him. He asked if she was all right. She nodded even though she wasn't. She didn't mention being fired. She didn't mention walking the entire city with no success. She didn't mention the fear living under her ribs like a ghost. She simply said she hoped he was feeling better. He smiled, softly, gratefully, and introduced himself as Ahan. Just Ahan. No last name, no hint of the truth. He thanked her again for her kindness and asked if she was looking for work. Her surprise was genuine, but her hope was fragile. She said yes, but only if it was honest work. She didn't want pity. She didn't want charity. She wanted dignity. Ahan's expression shifted in a way she couldn't interpret. It was thoughtful, almost emotional. He said he knew a place that needed someone reliable, compassionate, and hardworking. 3 things she had already proven. He asked if she could start tomorrow. She agreed, though doubt clung to her. It sounded too simple, too good, too sudden. But when he gave her the building's address, the opportunity felt real in her palms. The next morning, she dressed carefully, packed Noor's bag for school, kissed her forehead, and whispered prayers into her hair. No matter how tired she was, she always made sure her daughter felt loved. That was the one thing in her life she excelled at. She reached the address early, terrified of being late again. But when she looked up at the enormous building, she froze. It was the same one Ahan had been sitting in front of, a massive corporate tower she had never dared to enter before. And inside the lobby, people moved with purpose. Polished shoes, crisp suits, expensive watches. She felt out of place, her simple dress clinging to her with nervous sweat. But the receptionist greeted her warmly and guided her upward to the 28th floor, where the world looked even larger and more intimidating. When she stepped out of the elevator, she expected a manager or supervisor to greet her. Instead, the doors at the end of the hallway opened, and there he was, Ahan. But this time, he wasn't wearing a simple sweater or looking like a lonely man caught in the rain. He was sitting behind a massive desk, surrounded by city views that stretched for miles, with assistants checking schedules and executives waiting outside. The man in the wheelchair she helped was not just someone in need. He was the billionaire owner of the corporation, Ahan Rahmani, one of the most influential businessmen in the city. For a long moment, Alina couldn't breathe. She felt like she had walked into someone else's life, someone wealthier, stronger, luckier, not a single mother struggling to survive. Ahan dismissed the room gently and asked her to sit. His voice was calm, warm, sincere. He told her he had spent years observing people, partners, clients, employees, and very few had shown genuine kindness without expecting anything in return. But she had risked her job, her own security, her mourning, to help a man she didn't know. That kind of heart was rare, and he wanted someone like her on his team. He offered her a job, not as a cleaner or server or temporary staff member, but as part of the company's community outreach program, helping families in need, organizing charity drives, and providing support to employees facing difficulties. She was shocked, overwhelmed, and afraid to accept something so big. But he reassured her gently. He had faith in her, and sometimes, he said, all a person needs is someone to believe in what they cannot yet see in themselves. Alina's eyes filled with tears she couldn't stop. For the first time in years, she felt hope bloom inside her. The kind that didn't vanish overnight. The kind that stayed. From that day on, her life changed in ways she never expected. She had a stable salary. She had colleagues who respected her. She had a boss who checked on her with kindness rather than criticism. She had a reason to wake up feeling grateful instead of anxious. Noor began to thrive as well, attending better schools, eating healthier meals, smiling more than worrying. Their tiny apartment soon turned into a better home, filled with warmth, laughter, and security. And though life was still challenging, Alina faced it with strength she had never known she possessed. Months passed, and she became a vital member of the company. Ahan often observed her from a distance, admiring her resilience, her devotion to her daughter, her ability to spread compassion wherever she went. And though he never said it out loud, helping her had healed a part of him too, a part shaped by loneliness, physical limitations, and a world that often treated him differently because of the wheelchair he could not escape. Her kindness had restored his belief in humanity, something even billions couldn't buy. One evening, after completing a major outreach project, she received a bonus she had never expected. Ahan handed it to her personally, but what touched her wasn't the money, it was the way he looked at her, as if she were someone far more capable, valuable, and deserving than she had ever believed. She walked home that night with tears in her eyes, happy tears, grateful tears, the kind that come from a heart that has been broken and rebuilt stronger. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stories like these reach more people when you support them. Before we end, please comment below. Kindness matters. Let's fill the world with positive stories again.